Okie dokie, let's get into the measure. So this is somewhat a recap, but we want to have things imprinted in our mind of who is who. The Olmecas. It's imperative that we know that's a commercial name. Um, She people, Kushite, Songhai, Malian Moors, Mandingos, the last rulers of the Western Empire, the Moroccan Empire, religiously Islam. They became known as the Ottomans or the Ottomans. Historically, there were the Dogons, the Kush Moors or the Kushites, Moors of the Songhai Malian Empire. So when you say Songhai, Shanghai, just know that's Moorish. Before moving into Mali or Mare, the Dogon were called the Moors, but Maurs, meaning they were the high priests of Anu on Ra. The Dogon left Tamaray around 6,000 BC or 8,000 years ago, but carried with them the teachings of Tahuti or Hermes Trismegistus, called Haka or Herbak, which were the ancient mysteries. The Gulf of Mexico in the southeastern Gulf coast formed a massive crescent and was to the home of the powerful ancient empire of the Amaru Shi. Now that's more proper. The Amaru Shi clan, you can substitute that for saying, they're substituting Olmec for that. That's more ancient. I know we've been saying Olmec, but now we're at a higher degree now. Now we address the people, the Amaru clan, the Amaru Shi clan, loosely known as the Olmecs. That's how we need to talk to the people now. We're past that. They got feathers on. And when you say Amaru, that's the root of American, Amurakan, Tom Murray. When you say it more anciently, it stands out how we're tied to the land. So I want to
Islam,
emphasize.
I had a question, or to what was read when it said the Dogon left Tamaray. Is that when they went as far as from Amarak to or from Ham to Kush, traveling
Yeah,
that
you can
way?
look at it like that. You can look at it like that. That's a good observation because we were nomads.
Right.
Wherever we traveled and then stopped and set up shop and set up dynasties, that's now Tamaray. That's now Morocco. That's now
Okay.
Marrakesh. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if Moors are all around the world, then how is one place designated Morocco? How is just one area of the planet designated Morocco when there was Moroccans everywhere? So
Right.
everywhere we set up shop was designated to be a Moorish state or a Barbary state or a Tartarian state, but it was all part of the Moorish Empire. So that's Morocco too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, that that's why they put the misnomers on us so heavy. The ancient Egyptians. Now you in the fog on the intricacies now.
Right.
Who I just let in here. I want to. Oh, brother Brian, peace and love, man.
Peace and love, man.
Peace and love, man.
Morris.
Somebody else
Love
came
more.
in. Okay, so yeah, so great question, man. So now that we have higher degrees now, and we're talking to the people about these feds and uh, wearing uh, Tamaru Shi clan, loosely referred to as Olmec. And he's going to say that because, like, once again, you say Amaru is more power in speaking. The more ancient your tongue, the different the vibration. Amarakan, Amaru. Now it brings to light the landmass, the people that's tied to the landmass, what they loosely call ancient Egypt. This were Nefertiti and all that. All the mummies they found, the Grand Canyon. That's this ancient Egypt. All right. So let me continue. So the Olmecan Moors were the custodian and preservers of the ancient mysteries. Now, if what they call the Olmecs or the Amaru clan or the Amaru Shi clan are the preservers of the ancient mysteries, ain't that what they said the Egyptians did? Preserve the ancient mysteries, the ancient Egyptians. So they're saying the quote unquote Olmecs are the ancient Egyptians that preserved the ancient mysteries, right? It's pretty simple. Um, this is verified in Stolen Legacy by George D. James. Leon Dixon revealed that Benjamin Banneker, the surveyor, astronomer, mathematician, farmer, almanac publisher, multi-genius, quote unquote African American, because that's an A.J. Rogers was calling him African American in his book, where he was a Moor, was descended from the Dogon tribe of Mali. All right, so Benjamin Banneker was a descendant of the Dogon tribe of Mali. They're saying West Africa, an ethnic group known for its ancient and mystical astronomical knowledge. And while I'm on that, while this is in my head, 9L went to Mexico, brought some pieces back. Mayan calendars. So the Mayan calendar, but had the zodiac on the perimeter though. See, most of the time they show the Olmec calendar, but on the outskirts it don't have the animals of the zoo. You see how I did that? Animals of the zoo. They don't have the animals of the zodiac on the outside of the Mayan calendar, but in Mexico they do. And I have one. I'm about to start rocking it like a medallion, like how Flavor Flav rocking that clock. It's about the biggest that clock. I'm about to be out here. but
Marv,
Remy Bay.
I got a question, Marv, about what you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
So when they had the calendar with the animals on it, so whatever animal you was on, did that necessarily mean like that would be like part of your nature if you fall victim to it, or that will pull you in that type of nature, like the bull or the whatever? You know what I'm saying? What I'm trying to ask? Does those animals represent some type of energy that would draw you close to it, or what is it saying? What is the animals? How does the animals play a part in the calendar? And I yield the floor.
Islam. So the animals represent constellations of the stars. So, for example, the constellation of Leo is represented by the lion. For example, the constellation of Sagittarius is represented by a man, like an archer, somebody with a bow and arrow. The constellation of Aries is represented by the animal, the lamb or the ram. The constellation of Taurus is represented by the bull, for example. So that's what's going on when you see the animals. And I think you did bring up something, Brother Hassan, about a couple weeks ago about the ark, the boat, the ark, the flood and the ark, right? The animals, I brought up to you about the animals that were in the boat in the Bible. They talk about two pairs of these animals, two pairs of this and that. It's the same thing. It ties back to expressing either an age, like a Taurus age, like the golden calf, for example. They talk about the golden bull in the Bible. This always goes back to the age of the zodiac, like our constellation. You know what I mean?
Okay, because like I remember you was teaching me previously that the planets, you know what I'm saying, they have a certain energy that draw to you, like depending on what month you're born. So I was wondering, those animals like natural instincts, like we become more vulnerable to it when it's in that specific area, or it's just the fact that it's just a constellation and it's just the animal they chose for the shape of the constellation. That's really what I'm asking. Do these animals have a spiritual thing as far as we go and as far as the calendar go, and when the planets align a certain way and stuff like that? That's what I'm trying to ask.
Oh yeah, I got you. Yeah, so for example, like an Aries would be headstrong, very pioneering. So a lamb, same thing. It represents being headstrong. The ram is head first, right? They gonna hit you head first. Boom. So the animals were symbolic of representing characteristics and attributes that really since we're talking about Aries, we're really talking about Mars. So the energies of Mars, headstrong, pioneering, wanted to be the leader, not being a follower. Um, that's also the ram. So ram is symbolic for really Mars, and the ram and Mars is representing the energy of Aries, if that makes sense. This is characteristics.
Okay, so do you believe that some of the characteristics for different signs can be mixed in different people? Like I'm a Virgo, but I'm headstrong, and I want to be more of a leader than a follower, like in certain aspects of life, and that comes natural. So, how do I explain that? Is that because when the planets align a certain way, I pull that characteristic inside myself, or how do I? I'm trying to understand it a little more. I'm driving, by the way, so you know. Bear
Oh
with
yeah.
me. I see some people put some stuff in the chat, but I can't read it right now. So
You should get your chart done, and then you will see what planets is in certain houses. You have a more intricate view of yourself to answer that question better. I feel like that's how you answer that. That's how I suggest you go about that in that way, because you're going to get the intricate of your internal self. So the reason you're headstrong, you're going to see it might be in you might be in a certain degree, or a planet might be in a certain house. You may have some fire characteristics. You may have Aries in your placement. You may have Mars in your placement. These are things, why you may be fiery. All right. Because I'm a Virgo too, but I'm not as fiery as you. So right. I'm a different type of Virgo. I have Pisces and Taurus in my mixture. So right, those are the subtleties, right? The different
word,
subtleties.
Islam.
Yeah. But we
Yeah,
both analytical though.
So, boom. Do your parents, like the month your parents was born in, do that play a factor in how you are, even though you are Virgo, but you might have other characteristics? Does that play a part as well?
Yeah, your environment definitely plays a part. Um, but there's some common, like for example, I know you're analytical and I'm both analytical, and that's Mercury, that's Virgo. But the other things that make us different is like the degrees that you are in Virgo. Like I'm 17 degrees in Virgo. You may be 10 degrees in Virgo, whatever. But those subtleties change the whole temperament and things of that nature.
yeah.
But we still,
Basically, uh, uh, knowing your sun, moon, and rising. Your big three. That say that would help know self a lot. So your sun would be, your like right brain or your left brain, and your moon would be your right brain, and your rising would be like your body or your shell, how you come off. So your rising could be like a Virgo, because and someone see like, oh, that brother's always like neat, tie on, all this stuff like that. That's a very Virgo thing. Kind of like brother Mafia. He's always coordinated to a certain degree. There's a theme to his attire. You know, so
Uh, uh,
things of that nature. So you may like be Virgos, but like you said, your Virgo moon may be in your Virgo, so you may think more analytical than Brother Monty. His son may be in Virgo, so he may be more external with his Virgo stuff, and with the moon, you may be more internally organized and outernally organized. You know what I'm saying? So, long story short, just find your sun, moon, and rising, and you can see like, okay, cool, this is why I act like this. Like right now, people that are like born in April. I was born in April, so my Mars is activated because Aries is ruled by Mars, so Mars is in Cancer right now. So for me personally, I may have more energy in home. So right now I've been like cleaning and throwing stuff away. I have a lot of home energy. You know what I mean? So like Brother Maki said, just basically getting your chart done, and looking at yourself from your planetary view and when your parents made you, because that's the thing too. You can see what your parents thought when they made you, because if our parents used the zodiac to make us, we would know who we are before we even got here. Our parents would know, oh, he's a Virgo, he's going to do this. Let's put him in this, or her. So it's basically using the zodiac, to find ourselves and all that. So yeah, find your sun, moon, and rising, and you'll figure it out, bro, for sure.
Islam, appreciate it.
I got a question.
Wow.
Okay, so if the ancients were navigating on a different cycle or different calendar, does it play a different part for us in the constellations if we're under the Gregorian calendar today?
It's a sense of exactness once you get your exact date coordinates on the planet. 'Cause that's what it really come down to. Based
Okay.
on your latitude or longitude of when you came out the womb, that means you're in a certain hemisphere. So you're only going to deal with that hemisphere, right? You know,
Okay, word.
yeah. Because if you in China right now, it ain't the same. Summer and winter
Right.
ain't the same as over here and over there, right? It's a different time. So that, yeah, but it is still even out though.
Yeah, I
You
would
know,
say Vedic and then Western. So Vedic astrology is more, they say, accurate because it's measured by the moon, and Western
Right.
astrology is sun based, but it's all the same. So it's basically, I say use them both. Use your sun to know how you're thinking externally, and then use your moon chart how you think internally, and use them both. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not thinking one way all day. You know, you're not thinking external all day. You're not just like rah rah rah. You're not just like, oh my god,
Right.
you're using both hemispheres. So I would say, if you want a more accurate day to day cosmological answers, go Vedic. But for like a seasonal thing, like, okay, this season of my life, like sun is in Pisces. So I'll look at the 30 days that the sun is in Pisces and map my life like that. But in Vedic astrology, each day is different because the moon goes through phases every day, so it's taking our knowledge and combining them. It's kind of bringing mother back into astrology. That's how I look at it. Like doing measurements by the moon. So that's where Brother Abdullah book comes into play, how her Venus and moon rule, and that the star on the flag is made in the sky. Every 8 years with a lineup of Venus and the sun, and our ancestors mapped that over an 8 year period. You know what I mean? So things like that. So I would say get into Vedic astrology. So you'd be like the Gregorian calendar is get away from you because you'll be using the sun and the moon to measure, and not some idea some man made on paper or some shit like that. But yeah, I would say tap into Vedic astrology, and that would answer your question about all the dates and stuff because you'll be using actual tangible items in the sky, not somebody like, okay, this day is January 1st, New Year's.
All right, word up.
It's her.
Islam.
crazy because as you was talking, now we get into like the lunar calendar. A lot of our ancient calendar were like, planetary based. And when you talking about a 28-day month, that's the lunar calendar right there. We're talking about intervals of 7. You know, you're talking about moon cycles. And now back to the Mayan calendar that we was talking about, uh, they were heavy into lunar calendar too. So as a brother Benjamin Bay was talking, I was just processing. I'm like, yeah, that's what we got to
Yeah,
get back to that.
I was about to say that too. And Venus for vegetation. The moon and Venus were hella, excuse my language, hella important to the Mayans. You got corn, rice, and all that. So the moon regulates water and stuff like that. And Venus brings rain. So Venus and the moon were like, 1 and 2 for the Mayans. So brother's right. They really use the moon way more than the sun. Just
Okay, and with the and brother Ben, so with the moon moving and constantly, like you said, it's constantly changing its cycle or whatever you said earlier, right? Do
yeah.
that affects us too, right? So with this, so what you're trying to tell us now, this helps us master ourselves when we're having certain feelings that come about within that we don't necessarily understand. We can study this concept and understand how to react in certain situations when these feelings come about. Am I correct?
Correct. Islam. Islam.
Okay.
Because the moon
Okay.
affects. Oh, so yeah. Because the moon is mind. Because though you take the other O out of moon, you got MON. Vowels are interchangeable. MIN. Man is mind. You know what I mean? So the moon is our mind. So wherever the moon is, that's where our consciousness is. Because the moon is the people. So however the people are acting, you like, okay, cool. As a whole, you're kind of acting like the same. When like I want to be like the riots or like that, or something happened here, and like the stabbing at the track meet thing. How just the thought, everybody's thinking like the same thing. That's the moon. You know what I'm saying? When something happens, we all like on a collective consciousness almost. You know, and that is the moon. But we got to know, okay, the moon is affecting us this way. How do we balance that out? And that's where our chart comes in at personally. You know what I mean? So we can look outside. Okay, everybody acting a fool. Why is everybody acting a fool? And I don't want to get that on me. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, cool. The moon is here and this affliction here, so it's going to make people act like this. It's going to trigger this emotion inside of you because the moon is motion, energy and motion. You know, like we're not, like I said, we don't think the same all day. Like we haven't been thinking the same in this moment. We've been talking about various topics, you know, and that's the moon constantly going, our consciousness constantly moving. So not to be blabbering, but yet knowing where the moon is and and what constellation it is, yeah, we can regulate our emotions and our thoughts for sure, and not be like, oh, why does this happen to me? And you know, you're like fighting some quote unquote invisible force, you know, to help your soul elevate. You know what I mean? So the Moors can be on a higher plane, looking down at the pyramid. I yield.
Islam. Islam.
Peace and love to James Pettiford. Peace and love.
Peace and love, Brother James.
What's up, guys? Peace and love, Islam.
And today the meeting will end abruptly because I don't know how much juice is in my computer. Just FYI. So if it just happens to cut off, Islam, everybody. Peace and love.
Heard.
All right. So that was good.
Thank you for that, brother. I appreciate it.
Okay. So my emphasis, amongst other things, and also Get the Clock of Destiny by CM Bay. That's an excellent supplemental to what we're talking about too, to get more information. Amaru plan. Before we went off into that, keep in mind, let's stop saying Olmec if we can, and say Amaru She plan. That's gonna tie us to the land, and we can show fezzes and turbans on these people that built the pyramids in Mexico City, Yucatan, Belize, Peru, etc. Let's continue where we at. So Benjamin Banneker, surveyor, astronomer, mathematician, farmer, publisher. Okay, so he was also the architect of Washington, D.C. Benjamin Banneker, when you look from an aerial point of view looking down at Washington, D.C., you'll start seeing the coordinates, how it's laid out, and the thought that was put into that. So 1775, the first president of the United States under the Articles of Confederation was John Hanson, a Moor. He was part of the Shawnee clan, what they call Indian. They call our people Indian, Negro, these derogatory terms. But the tribe is still in play. So the Shawnee Moor, right? When you're gonna start seeing the presidents before George Washington were all melanated and were part of some tribe. Cherokee, Seminole, Inca, etc. And they helped these pilgrims get situated over here as far as helping them understand how to run government. And I'm summarizing because, of course, we can get more intricate into that. The Moorish Mason, mother-son by name of Ben Bey Emmanuel Mu Ali, aka Benjamin Banneker, was the architect who designed the streets in Washington, D.C. with Masonic codes and astrological glyphs. Assisted by England, Scotland, Ireland, Netherlands, France, Germany, Finland, and Sweden, the United States ended the war with the Moors and signed the Treaty of Peace and Friendship with Emperor Muhammad III. This is a timeline, a sequence of events. So now we're in 1787. The aforementioned treaty was the longest unbroken treaty in history. All right, so now when everybody got a $2 bill, now when you reevaluate that $2 bill, you're gonna start seeing that it was Moors in the picture. The overseers to make sure these pilgrims was doing what they need to do. The man on the left of this $2 bill was circled, right? The melanated brothers are circled on left and right. This John Hanson. The man on the right is Ben Bey. Ben Bey was born in 1731, making him the 45 in this picture, while John Hanson, born 1721, making him 55 in this picture. If you look at the encyclopedia, you won't see either of these men. Why is that? Their names are not on the Declaration of Independence because they were both Moors and we had our own government. Remember, we assisted them, but we had our own government. That's why John Hanson spoke under the seal of the pyramid. He didn't speak under the eagle with the shield. And he was the only one that could speak. He had authority to speak under that because he was part of that nation. George Washington and his cronies never actually severed their ties to the king, and they did not win the Revolutionary War. It was set up to trap and totally defeat the Moors from the inside. What you were taught in schools is called reconstructed history. So we was talking about before a lot of brothers and sisters came on right now. I think it was DuPont Bay and Larry Bay and me was talking about the Treaty of Paris. See, at this time, they didn't have true autonomy. The British Moor King George didn't set them free yet. That happened in 1783, 1777 and all that, what they call the Declaration of Independence. That was just what they said. It didn't have no international ramification just because they said that they weren't free. They weren't free to like 7 years later with the Treaty of Paris.
Islam, I had a question just in reference to is Brutish Moor short for the British Moor, or is that short for something else?
Yeah,
Brutish and British is like synonymous.
same thing.
Okay, for sure. I may want to make sure.
Yep. So King George was a Brutish Moor. The Pilgrims I was over here, George Washington, they were under his jurisdiction until 1783. They became their own little. They got permission to have their own jurisdiction because the Sultan and the Barbary Moors over here was like if y'all organize, we'll have a treaty with y'all. Y'all are kind of rough right now. Y'all need to organize, get y'all stuff together, make some elections. Who y'all plenipotentiaries? Get some stuff, And then finally they did that. Articles of Confederation, Articles of Association. Now they're ready to enter into a treaty with us. Now they came out with the Constitution, all right, for the United States of America. So shown above, it is not well known that the first president of the United States was John Hanson, a Moor. John Hanson is sitting on the 5th seat on the left. Prince Ben Bey is seated Masonically number 13 from left and first at the table. According to Masonic traditions of Prince Hall Masons, they say that one of the Moors on the $2 bill is Prince Hall. So just a little backstory. Benjamin Banneker was a prince of the Shawnee tribe. Now, to say tribe, it makes you look at it like this primitive hunters and gatherer type people. No, if he was a prince, that means he was part of a royal family in America. There was an American royal family. Everybody keep talking about the European royal nobility. There was royal families in America. He was a prince, right? That means there was kingdoms over here in America, right? Just want to invoke thought. So that's where they get Prince Hall. Yeah, that was Benjamin Banneker's nickname, Prince Hall. He was actually a prince of the Shawnee tribe, though. So don't get it confused. Like that, they took his nickname and running rampant with it. But the Prince Hall Masons don't even know the degrees that we're talking about right now. They don't even know that. Peace and love to Zaki. Glad you could tap in. I mean, Zaria. Peace and love.
Thank you for letting me come in. Yes. Same to you guys.
So once again, the meeting will end abruptly today. I don't know how much juice, but we'll keep going. However, according to the Elder Moors, Benjamin Banneker is one of the two Moors. Esoterically decoded, French Chief Justice Ben Bey Emmanuel Mu Ali of the Abanaki Banaka tribe, whom was a prince that built the halls and lodges and the temples as mentioned previously. Hence, this is the true origin of the name Prince Hall, the Freemason founder of the African Lodge, Prince Ben Bey Emmanuel Muli Ali, aka Benjamin Banneker, designed the city of Philadelphia and Washington, D.C., and he perfected the science of the federal government based on numerology and astrology and astronomy after the Tamarin, or the quote-unquote Egyptian structures in Moorish government. All right, so when we saying Egyptian, remember, ancient Egypt is over here. So he's structuring Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia like the noble Moorish architecture that was structured here since BC time immemorial. That's all he know. That's why the White House is like the building behind me. Got the U shape. It even got pillars and domes because that's Moorish architecture. Casablanca is a Moorish architecture and named after a city, one of the capitals of Morocco, not on accident. So keep all these things in mind. First, it was New York under the name Belgium, Amsterdam, or New Amsterdam. Philadelphia was second, and Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, was third, in case you never knew it. But back to our point, Philadelphia was the capital that our forefathers' records were kept. So the capital where the treaty was signed, that was in Philly. The capital was in Washington, D.C. at the signing of the treaty. So that's not the capital. Many fail to realize that for Benjamin Banneker, to design a city with such mathematical precision could not have simply relied on drawings, even though that it is said Frenchman Major Pierre Charles Effant, the city planner for Washington, D.C., took his plans with him after the dismissal, leaving no copies behind. So long story short, it's this mystery behind all that, right? So let's get into the aerial view of what I was telling you with the brother Benjamin Bey, the construction from aerial, a sky point of view. He scroll down. So okay, yeah. So he also built this. This is actually Europe. Actually, the concept of the time clock was named for the brother too, Prince of an American tribe. Since I know my computer about to die, I want to get into what kind of breezing through. So when we're talking about the concept of what Freemasons wear, the whole nine, it comes from them studying Moroccan culture, which they call ancient Egyptian mysteries. Moroccan Moorish culture is commercialized and styled and called the ancient mystery system. So here's a couple parallels of where they get their ideas from. Because remember, it has an origin. Everybody can see George Washington right next to the Pharaoh, right? Everybody can see that.
Yeah, I can
Okay.
see it.
Okay. I'm about to. I don't got enough juice for me to go into the whole metro I wanted to, but I'll follow up next week with more aspects of this. All right. So, okay. So the name of the land is Tamaray, which has a dual meaning. The land of Amun Ra, the actual longitude and latitude of the geological landmass. Two, the physical human body. So everything is as above, so below, so within, so without. Um, the Moors who settled in what is called Tanashi or Nubia, a province of Abyssinia, set up a school structure of science, language, law, mathematics, government, astrology, astronomy, military, alchemy, physiology, geometry, etc. These were your Neteru, so-called gods. The Moors, a complete nation of high priests, knew that the highest knowledge was to know that man and creation are one and the same, referring to the essence of Heru, or Ra, or Allah, God, Prana, Chi, Ki, or energy, or She. the life source that lives in every vibration of the omniverse. The oldest definition of the word more, remember vowels are interchangeable, means the netter, amen, the hidden one, soul embedded in the pineal gland, as well as it means a high priest. Tamaray, or Egypt, is actually a remnant of which came from Lemuria, or Mu, and Atlantis. Even Sumeria is an extension of Tamaray. After experiencing the collapse of previous empires, the Moors or high priests developed a caste system where they, in sight of the everyday person, maintained the science of the true self and filtered it to a select few who had to be initiated in the mystery system. So this is where it was the start of our people showing discernment on who was ready to receive. And now now it's an esoteric mystery type deal. Because now most people have failed. They've been dumbed down. So this information is, like I say, we preserve the information. That's why we have the breadcrumbs to even wake up today, doing what we're doing today, was based on that. If there was no preservation as info, we wouldn't even know nothing about the Moorish paradigm at all, to no degree. So Moor is also a title, meaning it is a position of achievement. Esoterically, the achievement is the supreme activation of the pineal gland, the crown chakra, the Kundalini or Shiva, by the mother principle called Kundalini or Shakti or Atakta. The high priest of Anu is another form of Amen and is the same as the biblical high priest order of Melchizedek. So when you think about the culture of the Moors and their religion was to activate the Christ, that's what we was about, setting the stage for activation of the Christ. So I want to go to the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, since now that it's in the front of our mind about the Moor, not only as tied to the land, but the Moor philosophy on life was to activate the Christ, balance thyself, bring peace within and in the community so it can thrive. So now we look at the metaphysical definition of Israelite. The illuminated thoughts. The illuminated thought. Can everybody see the Metaphysical Dictionary, or are y'all still on the last page I was showing previously?
We can see the metaphysical dictionary.
Okay.
Represents thought.
So the illuminated thoughts and consciousness, which are undergoing spiritual discipline, they are the total of our religious thoughts. In the beginning of our journey from sense consciousness to spiritual consciousness, from Egypt to Promised Land, not all these religious thoughts are awake to spiritual truth, but among them are the highly illuminated ideas and faculties that many inspired leaders, judges, prophets, and kings of Israel represent. The Israelites represent the thoughts in us that belong to the Israel consciousness, which in the above paragraph is illuminated thought.